followed by the phantom. He finds you.
Hey, g'day everyone. This is Expand the Phantom podcast. Our website is chroniclechamber.com. Geez, you think after this many episodes I'll get that name right. And you can subscribe to our podcast via YouTube or through your favorite podcast app. Please do not forget to give us a rating so that others can find us. We're padding our episodes out just a little bit at the moment, just before we get to the 300th podcast. Okay, we just want to get a few things out of the way. So this will be 299A. All right, there'll be a 299B, and there'll probably be a C as well. We just want to make a big special deal about the Phantom's birthday and try and align dates up together. Okay, so we're using a little bit of license here. So in this A podcast, we'll be discussing the latest in the daily and the Sunday stories that are running the newspapers around the world and on Comics Kingdom. And we'll also discuss all the Phantom related news that we can get our greedy little hands on. So, of course, I am Steve, and I'm joined today by both members of the team. G'day. We'll start off with Germ because you're on my screen. G'day, Germ. How you doing?
Yeah, good, mate. Looking forward to tonight. It's always a good chance to talk fandom.
Look, no, very excited to be here. Unfortunately, holidays have finished in Queensland. I'm back at work, and so it's a nice little stopover to talk some fandom on a Wednesday night as we record today.
Oh, you poor fella. I've still got until next week. That's when I go back. It's a hard life, isn't it?
More relaxed.
Rightio. So, as mentioned at the top of the program, we're kicking off with the daily stories and also the newspaper stories, I should say. So, starting off with Daily 267, which is the Skull and Jaw story, which is all about the pub. The pub, it was in England, I think, isn't it? The pub in England called the Skull and Jaw, where the proprietor of the place, what was his name again? That escapes me. Neville. I wanted to say Neville, but might have been wrong. He's gone on to the Graham Vincent show, not the Graham Norton show, the Graham Vincent show, and he's talking about his humble little pub, which is frequented by particular people with a skull mark. Now, this isn't something that happens very often. We see these skull marked, well, we say men, but well, they are men. There's very rarely a skull marked lady. However, there's one certain person in here. I think we mentioned it in the last podcast, did we?
No, so in the last
Yeah.
podcast, we were wondering if there was going to be a return of a bad guy. We've seen a lot of new bad guys that have been marked, and we were wondering whether we would see a return of one. And we have seen a return of one, but
He's
he's
in
now
disguise.
disguised himself quite well. Yeah, so it was nice to see a returned villain.
Yeah.
I would have liked to see more personally, but it was
Yeah.
good. Yeah, I would have just, maybe one from, Wilson McCoy days or Ray Moore or Cy Barry or,
It
maybe
does,
just one of all of, just a little bit of nostalgia just to kind of give us, the hardcore fans who would notice, who would, something to giggle and something to be excited about.
it's not something that the Phantom's really known for, bringing back old villains,
Mm.
is it? Like, apart
All
from
right.
in recent years, like the Python and the Nomad, and of course there's been the Sing Pirates. So having a story like this is a bit new. What do you reckon, Dan?
Yeah, look, it could have been a really cool opportunity to slip in lots of, it would have been cool to see the crooner perhaps, or Fats Norton, or lots of different skull marked men from stories gone past. Python did get a mention, and when Diana was suddenly freaked out that he might be in the pub. So that is possibly a bit of an opportunity missed in terms of a few Easter eggs for us rusted on fans. But look, I really enjoyed this story. It's a short, sharp. It fits in nowhere in the rest of the Phantom universe in a sense. But the idea behind it, that there's this pub that has exists in England, that has been started by someone who got whacked by the Phantom and has turned his life around and is walked away from his life of crime. So yeah, like the idea of this pub in England being the possible scene of a reality TV show, and when we're talking as the story's wrapped up, and I really loved the last week, how it wrapped up and the Phantom sort of he's on the show, Neville saying to Graham, "Oh no, there's no way the Phantom would ever the skull marker is ever going to turn up in the pub," and lo and behold, yes, he does.
Yeah, just a little subtle hint that he was there the whole time while the
Yes,
show was on.
yeah.
I will admit that that ending the last week, which again, if you're on YouTube, you'll be able to see it as we as we go through. That's probably been that really made the story, in my opinion,
Mm,
is, like, especially like this bit where he's, shows that, hey, you know, shows in the skull ring. And we've talked about it in the last podcast is like, should the fans be not showing his skull ring and stuff like that. And this goes to show that, that he has, and it's really ended the story quite well.
yeah.
Um,
So
I
it's
like the
that
fact that it's,
second that
It's a
you
fun
talked
little
about.
pop.
mm,
Yeah.
I like the fact that the story is not too long as well. Like I think it's an 8 week story. It's short, it's sharp. It doesn't give an ending, so to speak. Like there's still a lot of loose threads that could be pulled, that could be left, which I think is good as well because, let's face it, if the story doesn't do well, well, you don't have to touch it. But if the story does do well, Tony DePaul might, revisit it, in a couple of years' time or something. So I will
Mm.
admit, I was really, really happy, really impressed with this story.
Yeah, I thought it was a fun story. Now, this concept of these skull-marked people, the one that comes to mind, in a previous story is the city of the skull-marked men. Um, was that wasn't a folk story, was it? That was Team Phantom?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. Has there been anything else that's not coming to my head?
Was the Fathers and Sons, I believe the story was called, which is like in the 1940s, where I think the a guy came out of jail. There was the 20th Phantom who punched him, put him in jail, and then he came out, collected, and then tried to re-steal the gold that the Phantom caught him at, or something, and then he ended up getting two skull marks. There's also the Masked Ball, which has got Dan Barry lookalike, who also had two skull marks. But yeah, it's very rarely do we see in a story by Lee Falk a character who's visited the
Been
Phantom
doubled.
more than once. Yeah.
Yep.
None of these characters got a second skull mark. It was really just the concept of people who have had interactions with the Phantom before and weren't necessarily all part of the same criminal gang or anything, but then find each other and something they've got in common. I really liked the chat with the TV show host about, right, so you all put your brains together and come up with exactly who this is. And Neville says, well, actually, if you do that, it just makes it more mysterious. Delve into the elements of the Phantom Legend. Is he a wolf? Is he a woman? Is he does he even exist? Is he some sort of phantom? Even throws that word out there. So I really liked the way that we're able to explore that a little bit. It almost ties in with the Phantom Stamp story from a few years ago, in the sense that someone's going to publicize the Phantom and someone's going to reveal the fact that he exists to the rest of the world. I was probably a little surprised that the Phantom was happy in this one that he just walked away from the concept and is going to let it go, that this reality TV show might exist. Maybe this is Tony DePaul dropping a strong hint to Netflix or somebody that, hey, here's an idea for a TV show, Skull-Marked Men.
Yeah. I tell you, it's a
Yeah.
lot better than the stamp adventure.
Mm.
I hated that, but this I really enjoyed.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you there, Steve. The Phantom doesn't resonate with me at all, where this one did. So,
Yeah.
you know.
Now, Neville's not the only guy sitting on the couch there in the Graham Vincent show. Who do you reckon are the other celebrities? I know what I think, but do you guys have a couple of ideas?
Oh, mate, I'm
You'll
not
be
very
up for
big on.
celebrity gossip, eh? E
No,
News Direct or whatever it's called. Entertainment Tonight, is that still a thing?
oh God, only knows.
Anyway, what about you, Jim?
I think it's probably the same. I'm thinking Oh, is it Sophia? Her last name starts with V from Modern Family, and he starred in a few movies with The Rock.
Yeah, Kevin
Can't
Hart.
remember his. Yeah, Kevin Hart.
Yeah, I reckon it's Kevin Hart, but I'm going for Scarlett Johansson for the female, I guess.
Mike Manley did a fantastic job of capturing Graham Vincent. There can be absolutely no doubt that that's who it's modelled on. And Mike has leaned right into Tony's script there. All of the mannerisms, like I have watched a few clips of Graham Norton shows over the time, and all of the mannerisms, even the way he talks and gestures and all the rest of it, I thought he really captured that. So we lots of fans will get a bit excited if they appear in a panel of a Phantom comic. If I was Graham Norton, I'd suddenly be a huge fan of all the strips.
Very good. So Daily 267 has come to an end, which means next week, new adventure. Now, not quite sure what this new adventure is all about, but it is starting with a retelling of the Oath. And
We haven't got a name for it, have we?
for the adventure, not that I know of.
Hmm.
But we have got a retelling of the Oath. Now, usually, the Oath starts off with, 400 or 500 years ago, a sole survivor of a pirate attack washed ashore of the Bengalan beach. But Tony's actually taken it back a little bit further and actually got the ship in there. And has the ship ever been named before? Because there's the name for it here. Or is Tony just bringing this out and putting it into law? Yeah. So there's a few things going on here. Now, I did a little bit of research. I've actually, I'm on holidays, so I had a bit of time to devote to the podcast this afternoon. So in this is it the first one? Is this the first day?
Yeah, this is the first day.
So very first panel on the very first day of this new adventure, we got the English carrack Matilda is bound for the Cape of Storms. Now, I didn't go quite so far to say where the Cape of Storms are, but I was interested in this boat. So carrack was Portuguese, I think, was an ocean-going sailing ship, 14th, 15th centuries in Europe, most notably in Portugal and Spain. And then was superseded, I think that's the right word, superseded by in the 16th and 17th centuries by the galleon. But it was an ocean-going ship and it was probably one that was, it's true to the time. And the name of the ship here is called Matilda. Now, talk to Australian about Matilda and you think Matilda's the soccer team or waltzing Matilda. But Matilda, the name Matilda actually means strength in battle. So maybe there's something to the name there of the ship, strength in battle. Now, is it the next day or the day after where we get to see the Walker's crest? Yeah. So the next day in the on the left-hand side there, we've got the charismatic captain, who we all know is the first Phantom's father. He's respected and loved by all for his wisdom, his courage, his kindness, and so on and so forth. But in the background there, we've got the Phantom crest. So I did a little bit of digging, fellas. Would you like to hear what I've
Mate, I love it when you go
come
digging.
up with? Rightio. Well, we'll start off with the colours that are quite prominent there. We've got the blue and we've got the purple. Now, the blue denotes truth and loyalty, azure, which is a shade of blue. In its absolute significance, it represents truth, a divine truth. And it was a symbol of divine eternity and of human immortality. Oh, a man who cannot die. There we go. Maybe that has something to do with the Scandinavians using blue. Now, purple is a symbol of royal majesty, of sovereignty, and of justice. So I always knew about the royalty associated with purple. I didn't realize about the justice. Now, on the bottom of the crest there, I think that's a sextant. I'm happy for anyone else to say otherwise, but I reckon that's what it is. Now, the sextant represents adventure and the discovery of new horizon, an emblem of direction, watchfulness, guidance, and protection. The sextant is also closely associated with progress because it expands the boundaries of knowledge and extends the limits of understanding. Now,
I think you're basically on the right track, but remember there was a story, wasn't it the Sunday where
that's what I was
back in touch
about.
It's an astrolabe.
Yeah, an astrolabe. Look, I'm pretty sure that's what it's supposed to be because the story we saw last time where And Tony wrote about this in his blog, The Nickels of the Man, about having Jeff Weigel had drawn a sextant, and then Tony realised, oh, hang on, no, that's too modern. I've got to go back a little bit older if I'm going 1500s for the astrolabe. So I think that's what's on the bottom of the crest there. Same purpose. It's used for the same thing. So the meaning of it remains the same, whether it's a sextant or an astrolabe. But yeah.
I hope so, because on my heraldry website that I've been checking, it doesn't have astrolabe there. All right. So, and then on either side, we've got a couple of animals. Now, on the left-hand side, I reckon that's a griffin. And now I've gone to a website and I can't click back to my notes. There we go. Which is, we know it's a creature. It has the head, the wings and talons of an eagle and the body of a lion. And it is said to express the ideal combination of swiftness, strength, and intelligence. That's the phantom wrapped up into one, I'm sure. Historically, the griffin has been emblematic of valor, vigilance, and death-defying bravery. And it's a writer, his name's Guillaume, I think. Don't quote me on how to pronounce his name, but he has a quote about the griffin. It sets forth the property of a valorous soldier whose magnanimity is such that he will dare all dangers and even death itself rather than become captive. This creature is as old as the time of the Phoenicians. It was sacred to the sun and kept guard over hidden treasures. So we all know about his treasures in the skull cave. It is symbolic of watchfulness, courage, perseverance, and rapidity of execution. Gets the job done and gets the job done quickly. And finally, the horse on the right-hand side there. It is a symbol for loyalty and devotion, such as the faith it has with its master, and it also represents the warrior spirit, bravery, and courage. Heraldic writers say that horses, and those who used it as an emblem, represented the readiness for all employments for king and country. So we know that Tony never does anything without putting some thought into it. I have no doubt whatsoever he knew what he planned that crest and said, here, Mike, make this crest.
What's the knight?
The knight, that's just the herald symbol. There's different colors and different things about the visor being down and the amount of bars on there, which could signify royalty, or your standing, your what's the word I'm looking for? Your rank, I guess. But I can't really see that in that helmet. Like it says about gold bars and if it's open or shut and that type of stuff. But basically it's to say that what follows is the heraldry of this family.
Portent of things to come, if you like.
When I first looked at it, I didn't quite go as deep as you. I'm at work at the moment, so
People did.
yeah. I thought the mask was, like the helmet kind of shows that, that there's a mysteriousness, which is, kind of foreshadow. He's wearing the mask. The striped jocks, matches the right hand side of the stripes and then the purple. Yeah. And then of course the instrument sort of looks like the good mark with the cross sabers. But yeah, it was interesting that we all kind of looked at it and caught our attention. So yeah, like you said, I know Tony would have done it on purpose. So while you've got some time off, Steve, you might have to write an article and write all that down for the website.
It's good that I've already written it down in my notes here. It's an easy one to do.
A quick last one on the Herald. Do you think there could have or should have been a skull in it, or would that be a step too far, knowing that where this story goes is that the skull comes into the Phantom lineage?
I think it comes
probably
into it
a
later.
step too far.
Yeah, rather than delve into Phantom Gladiator territory. I was trying to look for something about the angled lines, the diagonal lines, but I wasn't able to find anything yet. If I find something, I will. But I found things about zigzaggy lines and stuff like that, but nothing about the angled lines.
It just looks like the jocks for me. So.
Oh yeah, and that's where it goes to, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
And so where we're going to end this off is looks like the Sing Pirates are about to show up and fight. So I think Tony said that this for those who come in late is going to be for 2 weeks. From memory, the last time that we've seen a for those who come in late was 2015, I believe it was.
And was that with
So
Lee Falk saying it?
it might have been by Lee Falk showing it. We'll show it up on the for those YouTube viewers
I think
anyway.
Paul is the narrator.
Yeah, but I like the fact that we're seeing it. I think it's something that we probably need to see a little bit more often. And maybe see it, not every story and not for 2 weeks at the start of every story like we are here, but for those who have come in late, which is where the saying comes in, they can kind of get and learn a little bit more about the origin of the Phantom. Because if you're just reading newspaper stories and if you've picked it up in the last 8 years, you might have not read this before.
You may not have. So it's a good thorough depiction of the oath.
Yeah, and I guess we've come at that from a bit of a biased position, because for a long time there, literally every Frew comic had for those
Yes.
who come in late on the first page. So we're very much used to seeing it at the start of every story. There might be people who go, "Oh, that's a bit over the top," and maybe every single story, like you say, would be. But yeah, once every 10 years probably doesn't seem often enough.
Yeah. And I would also like to see it, so we've got 10-year gap between the dailies, but then maybe also, in a year or two, have a Sunday,
Yeah.
have like one Sunday panel of the same retelling of the oath, and, just do it every, 3, 4, 5 years. I think, and if you alternate, because there's people that just read the Sundays and then there's people that just read the dailies. So I think it's good to do that. And I would also like to see the retelling of the oath actually be used on the Comics Kingdom website, where they've got a Sunday panel. I would like them to actually use the retelling of the oath, whether it's a modern day version or an old Cy Barry version, as that as well, just because not everyone is a rusted on fan. There's going to be some casual readers, there's going to be some new readers, and there's going to be those who have come in late.
Yeah. So it'd be a good header for the Phantom webpage on there. Talking about, we did mention Sunday, we've got the ongoing story about the Princess of Songhai. Now, Tony DePaul has posted a blog on this titled Phantom Blather. The new daily story is only 3 days old, and I did a lot of research on that one. On this one, which is probably a couple of months old by now, I read it just before we do the podcast, really, because it's really an in-depth thing, and I want to read a few weeks at a time so I can get a more thorough understanding of what's going on. But I did do a little Google and just see, well, who is the Songhai Empire, and what's happened with Morocco? Like, where's this all actually situated? And from what I can see, it's the northeast corner of Africa, really.
We kind of talked about that it's kind of dragged a little bit, but I think probably in the last month, it's actually kind of picked up pace a little bit. The 29th of January coming up soon. And the Phantom's there with the princess. So, well, I assume it's the princess. So, the last couple of weeks we've seen the Phantom leading the nation looking for what do you call it, for the princess. And then on this panel here, which is, like I said, no, sorry, it's the 26th of January, not the 29th. The Phantom's there. This is a brilliant panel, this one, actually. I think Jeff's done a great job of this. But so maybe this story hasn't got too far before it gets wrapped up as well.
Just going to rescue the princess and that's it. There's not going to worry about the journey home.
Well, I don't know if it's really necessary having, spending another 4 weeks or another, 2, 3 weeks having the journey home. He's rescued it. It's got I don't know. I don't know. Maybe this is just maybe it's just the halfway point or the midpoint of the story or something like that. Maybe there's another twist or something like that. But
look, it certainly has picked up pace over the last 3 or 4 weekends, as you've shown them. The Phantom's actually getting involved in some action. I think it has felt like it's dragged because there's so much narrative voice in this one. It's a bit unusual for Phantom stories We've gone, gee, I can't go, is it 5 Sundays in a row where there's not been a single dialogue balloon? It's all been narrative boxes. And that certainly changes the way that you feel about reading the story. It's very effectively giving. So there we are on whatever date that is, Jim. Can you see the
It's the 29th of December from last year.
29th of December? So there hasn't been a single dialogue balloon in a Phantom Sunday in 2025 so far. And we're at the end of January. It's, as I say, it changes the way you read it. What it does do is very effectively portray the idea of the Phantom reading a story from the Chronicles to Diana. And yeah, it's good to see that there's a lot more action in the last few panels. No, sorry, last few weeks, because there was a lot of journeying prior to that. So yeah, interesting to see where it goes from here.
Tony does mention all of that style of writing in the blog, and heavily influenced by Hal Foster and Prince Valiant. I've got a Prince Valiant book here. Oh yeah. So Prince Valiant, if you're familiar with him or if you're not.
Oh, you brought one of those books. Yeah, they look
Yeah, I
great.
got one of these. So yeah, no dialogue boxes, all art, and yeah, and it's depicted the exact same way as those Sundays are. Now, talking about the art, now I reckon you're about to mention something about the shadow there, Jem. Would I be right in that, or are you talking about something else?
Yeah, so the shadow and something else, but we'll go the shadow because that's something that you raised, is I like how it really gives a mysteriousness to the character. The Fru Annuals coming out has got this monster theme that really adds to that whole monster look, that, that mysteriousness. He is the Phantom. He's the man who cannot die. He's the ghost who walks. He looks like the ghost that walks. There's a few old jungle sayings about, freezes the blood, when he speaks, freezes the blood of, tigers. And you got to remember, this is the second Phantom, I think it is, from memory. So, he's adding to the lore all the time. So yeah, I really like
Yeah.
this set of panels.
And the top line actually brings in that it's the genesis of the, when the Phantom asks, you answer. Jungle saying beginning to be heard in the wilds of Bangala. I think, what does it say? Yeah, country to the east. What I like about the shadow, now, what my kids would say is that's not how physics works. Because when something's in shadow, everything's in shadow. But here, and it's been done over the last number of years, you see the eye holes, the triangle eye holes coming through. So it's the shadow of the Phantom with the eyes coming through, which, that's not how physics works, as the kids say, but you know what's going on. It also happened in the last panel, I think, of the Skull and
Bailey's
Jaw
story,
story,
yes.
as the Phantom and Diana are walking away, the shadow of the Phantom is on the wall behind them with the eye holes there. So I really like that.
Yeah, I agree. I do as well.
Look, I finished 2024 by going back and naming Jeff Weigel as one of my artists of the year, and he's certainly doing nothing to get off my list for 2025 so far. I really love his work.
Now it's time for the news. Now, Jermaine's always got his finger on the pulse when it comes to the news. There's always plenty of things happening here in the Phantom's world. It's always surprising. Well, it's no surprise to us, but it might be a surprise to those who aren't living and breathing it. So the first bit of news is that Greg Smallwood has been announced as the cover artist for Mad Cave Studios issue number 0, which is their free comic book day issue, which will come out on the first weekend in May. When I saw this, it reminded me of like spy thrillers or movies and stuff from the 60s. Anyone else have any first reactions to it?
Didn't like it, to be blunt. It's just not my cup of tea. Yeah, I'm sure that if you're on YouTube, you're looking at it on the screen at the moment, and in a way, I'm sorry about that. It just didn't work for me at all. It looked like the artist hadn't settled on a plan. The wolf, devil's wolf, the wolf of the face of devil coming out of the thing is so detailed, and then the Phantom himself is not. I actually went and did a bit of a search for Greg Smallwood's, going, well, who is this artist? And going through his Instagram account and his website, he's actually got a lot of really good work, and it doesn't really look like this. So yeah, I was about to say the jury's still out. The jury is returned. I don't like it. I hope it's
What
not
about
an
you, Jim?
book.
Yeah, no, very similar as Dan. It looks like a high school artist's unfinished artwork or, art project
Oh, yeah.
where like I like the realistic style of it, but the fact that the costume of the Phantom is flat,
Mm.
that just doesn't work. Like if the Phantom's costume was detailed like the rest, I think it would actually look quite nice. But yeah, for me, it doesn't work. Now, I was challenged on this by an American fan who said he said you're not the target audience, and maybe he's right. Maybe he's right that I'm not the target audience for this, and maybe it is the style and a cover that will be appealable to a lot of US fans. But every US fan that I've talked to, well, majority of US fans that I've talked to don't like it either. So I don't know. I hope I'm wrong. I think it would work good as a B, like a variant cover, because it's something a little bit different and catchy and retro-y. But I hope that it's not going to be a precedent of what we're going to get for this new series. Because if it is, I'm not sure how long it's going to last for. But then again, I might be the wrong target audience, like I've been told.
The target audience, I've been to a few free comic book days at comic book stores, and the ones that I've gone to, okay, there's 12 or 20 or whatever free comic books that are sitting there. You're allowed to pick 4. Now, does this one jump out as one of the 4 that you're going to take? To me, I worry about that. You've almost got to put more effort into the cover for a free comic book if you want people to jump in, read issue 0, and then invest in the series later on. So I don't know whether there's been it's just a freebie, and so therefore it doesn't matter as much. And I mean, no disrespect to Greg if he ever does happen to listen to this. The choices that have been made here for whatever reason. Well, maybe I'm not the target audience either, but who
Yeah.
is the target audience? Someone who's floating in looking for a free comic book and they're going to pick up a new
Mm.
series.
Yeah. Let's hope that we're wrong
Mm.
and it is successful and it is appealable for the casual readers, for the non-fans, because the fans are going to pick it up anyway.
For my mind, it just kind of seems unfinished. I think that comment was made to me from someone. Just, oh yeah, that's a good idea. See it through. Oh no, it was like having a conversation. Oh no, that's a finished product. Oh really? Take it back and
Yeah.
fix it up. More news out of America in regards to comics. Moonstone. They're bringing out a Phantom comic. Well, actually, it's not a Phantom. It's a bystander comic with the Phantom as the bonus story. At the end.
Yes.
Comes out in May or maybe June. So not well, but it's not too long, but it is. It's still 5-6 months away. But it's great that there's 2 US publishers publishing the Phantom. Now I was in a comic shop just the other day. And I thought, I'll see if I can put a standing order in for Mad Cave and for Moonstone. Couldn't do it just yet. It's a little bit too early, but hopefully that can be sorted out soon.
I think it's kind of good that they're coming out around the same time. Now, we've got an article which is going to explain the whole how they're releasing it a little bit better in a little bit more detail. We won't go over the article, read the article. It's also got some artwork that hasn't been seen before as well.
Woohoo.
Um, I'm looking forward to what Moonstone's going to do. I think it's going to be a little bit different than what Mad Cave is, which I think is good because I'm assuming Mad Cave is probably going to be a little bit more superhero-y and stuff, where Moonstone kind of feels a little bit more noirish, a little bit more prose-ish, a little bit more, kind of pulpy. So, it's I'm looking forward to seeing them. I'm looking forward to be able to read them, to be able to review them.
Right, yeah, still staying in the US, Hermes latest daily volume 33 will be out soon. So a little bit of news, good news coming out that way out of the Hermes publishing company. Yep.
Just after we discussed in the 2024 wrap, it was looking like the Hermes publication stream was slowing down, so it is really good to see that 33 is coming. Whether a Sunday comes out this year, a volume of Sundays, remains to be seen, but the dailies keep chugging away. We're still in the Cybarry era. Volume 33 is getting into the 80s, mid 80s. So as we discussed last time, are they going to wrap up at the end of Cybarry in like 1993? Will they get to the end of Lee Falk stories in 99 or whatever it was? Again, personally, I hope they go all the way through to current day, but all good things come to an end at some point, I suppose. So anyway, still chugging. Great to see.
Great to see. Okay, staying on with a lot of news out of the States this month. Phantom on the USA Comic Con cruise. So this is a bit of a fun cruise that's part of Comic Con. There's a patch done by, what was his name? The artist? I thought it was 8-bit something or something like that.
Yeah, I've got a mind blank as well. But yeah, so they're doing the Phantom, Flash, Mandrake, and I think Popeye or something like that as well. So there's going to be Phantom stuff to buy on the cruise, only for the cruise. So it's going to be interesting whether, how it will become available. I'm assuming
Yeah,
there'll be probably a few people that will buy it and then resell it on eBay
we'd
as
love for it to
well.
sell out, could be so popular, but we also want some leftovers for the rest of us.
Yeah, exactly. And then Barrett from King Features has let us know. She hasn't let us know the exact details, but there's going to be other Phantom related stuff, either to do, to watch, to buy on the cruise as well. She hasn't given us details of that yet. When we do have details or the Comic Con cruise release details, we will write about that on our website as well. But we just thought we'll kind of give you a bit of a heads up for those who are listening to us.
Excellent. It's great to hear that. Sorry,
What
Dave.
it's worth, I've got a significant wedding anniversary coming up in the next 18 months or so. When I suggested that maybe we could go on a cruise to celebrate that, my wife was very enthusiastic. Until I told her we were going to have to fly to America to do it. And then she's like, oh, okay, well, the Caribbean at least. Then when she heard it was a King Features Comic Con cruise, yeah. Anyway, we might be looking closer to home.
You had a right to the end. Oh, wow.
Yeah, nearly got there.
Put the bait out there on the hook, but just couldn't draw it in. Okay, now staying over there in the States and King Features, bit of news out of King Features. Tia, who has been looking after the fandom for a good number of years, has moved on.
Yeah, she's been, I think it's 15, 16 years. Is that right, Dan?
Yeah, certainly she has been with King Features or Hearst for that period of time. I'm not sure whether all of that was associated with the fandom, but certainly the last half dozen or more years has been the point of contact for anything to do with fandom. And yeah, it looks like reading through the post that she put on LinkedIn wasn't necessarily her idea to quit the job. We were sort of told that you need to we're restructuring and your role is going to be disappearing and you need to take a step backwards in the company or take a severance package. And like a lot of people would, I think, under those circumstances, took the package and has moved on to different things. So, yeah, a bit of a restructure. Jeremy, you've already name-checked Barrett as certainly the person that we're in contact with now at King Features. So, bit of a change there. As always with these things and downsizing and restructuring and that sort of thing, doesn't necessarily fill you with optimism for where these things are going. But anyway, I guess it's a watch this space.
It almost seems like every week or maybe every month we hear more news about things downsizing, like newspapers or magazines, and they're cutting staff or they're cutting distribution or there's something else going on. Or talking about distribution, there's something about the comic companies. I think this past month, Diamond had some issues. So it's I don't want to say volatile, but it's there's a bit going on there, and we hope that, well, we're interested in our characters that we love to read, but there's people's livelihoods and jobs here at stake. So we do certainly hope that everyone is able to get through it and is able to work and provide for their families. Something a bit more happier, I guess, that there's a signed NECA Phantom figurine competition being run. Now, this is being run by Ash Nichols out of Art of Play Games. We have a link on our website to check out to on how to enter it. I'll give you a brief. There's, I think, was it 3 steps? Subscribe to the Art of Play YouTube channel, or add the Phantom game to your wish list on Steam. Email the Art of Play team at their email address with a screenshot showing your subscription or wishlist edition. And in the same email, you tell Art of Play team in 25 words or less which Phantom artist you admire. Okay, and probably why, I guess. It's cut off on my website.
I like the fact that they have done a competition where it's not just a lucky dip prize. We actually got to do something
Game of skill.
to enter it. Yeah. So, there's a little bit of luck involved, but there's, a lot of it you actually got to come up with something catchy. So yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see what the winning 25 letters are. Hopefully they publish that as well.
25 words, I think, mate.
25
letters,
words,
letters are going to be real tricky. But talking about the Phantom game, boys, do you know what I did last weekend?
I know because I read the article.
I cannot believe we're nearly an hour into the podcast, into the first you mentioned of it. I expected that right at the top.
No, you've got to wait for the right opportunity. You can't just lead with that. You got to just slip it in. But anyway, for those people who may not have seen the article on the website just yet, or I haven't shared it on my own socials, I got to play the first level and a half of the Phantom video game on the last week, and not just myself. My youngest son Jeremy, we're in Melbourne. We're going to the cricket and have an hour where both Ash's timetable and our timetable coincided. The planets aligned, and we're able to pop in there to his Melbourne studio and have a bit of a go of the game. Now, the game it's definitely not the final product. And anyone who follows Ash on his socials, you'll know that he is absolutely particular about getting things right and doing things the right way. Now, too often I play games and you have to get an update because the game's not right, or you go onto the Facebook, whatever, and people are whinging, oh, the game's broken, all that sort of stuff. Now, what we played there was a few bugs in it. Like sometimes if you died and respawned, or you lost all your lives and you had to come back and replay the level, the music didn't come on with it. So there was an issue you had to figure out. Sometimes the enemy didn't hit the ground the way they should. They froze midair. There was one particular enemy, actually, it was the Skyband character. It was just little things like that. Trying to pick up a torch I found really, really hard. And so, but Ash is aware of these things and his team are aware of these things, and they have a spreadsheet just full of these little things to sort out. What was that, mate?
It's obviously not the final release.
It's obviously not the final release, and they are definitely working around the clock for the next month and a half to iron out all these bugs, squash all these bugs, so that on release date, it is the final product. And because I know I've played games that have had bugs such as the ones that I played with on the weekend being released. So it's great to see the care and attention to detail that the team are putting in. And attention to detail. My son Jeremy, he was talking about the shadows, and he was talking about how when the chicken runs away, that it drops a feather. If you get too close to this rat who just happens to be sitting there on the streets of India, it runs away. It's just these little things that draw you into that world. Whereas, if you keep when a game doesn't have those things, doesn't address the bugs that are in it, like someone freezing midair, that takes you away from the world. But having these little things like a leaf falling when Chi-Chi comes out to direct you the way, really draws you in, and it's great to see that not only is the gameplay great, but the art's fantastic as well. And these little tidbits are these attentions to detail are really, really good. I remember when there was a gameplay footage released, must have been last year, there was some comments about looking slow or looking jittery. Definitely did not notice that when I was playing it.
Obviously, you're the gamer out of the three of us, but you're also a Phantom fan, so you're going to buy it no matter what. Your youngest son is not quite addicted to our levels yet. What did he think of the Phantom game? Like, was it something that he's like, oh, I want to play this, I want to buy, like what was his? Because he's, partially the target audience. So,
Absolutely. Now he's keen on it. He really enjoyed the gameplay. He was picking up better than I was. I was dying much more than he was. He was doing a great job of it. And oh, he goes, oh, how much? He asked Ash, oh, how much is this going to cost? And Ash goes, about $20. He goes, oh, is that all? So it's the right price. It's not a AAA title. So what was that?
Don't get him telling Ash that. Ash will jack up the price and we'll all go broke.
But the thing is, it's not a AAA title. You got these, games that can cost upwards of $100. For
oh,
$20, you got this fantastic, side-scrolling beat 'em up, which harkens back to the grand old days of the 80s and 90s when we played Double Dragon 2 or played Battletoads and that sort of stuff. Anyone who's a gamer will know what I'm talking about there. And it gives you that nostalgia hit of these games that you like playing at the arcade or on the Nintendo or whatever at your friend's place. I thought I was fanging for just looking at screenshots and videos of it. Now I've played it. I can't wait to get the game and finish it.
So did you and Jeremy play two-player? Obviously, one Fan and one Diana?
No, we only played in one player mode. So when one died, we handed the controller over.
Yeah. Well, little bugger got more of a turn than you then, by the sounds.
Yeah, no, it was good. And the variety of enemies is fantastic too. They are quite different. It's not just they're not all cookie cutter type enemies. You got to approach them all differently. Okay, so we've gone America, we've gone Australia. Well, right, we're off to Sweden. You can still vote for the Phantom Best Story of 2024. Have you put your vote in yet, Germ?
I think I have. Yes, I did. There was quite a few stories that we'd already seen as an Australian free reader. So there was a few stories that we'd already seen. There was some newspaper stories and a couple of free stories. So I did put my vote in. What's interesting about the vote is that you can actually, which maybe we need to do next year when we do the free best of 2025, is they have the option where you can do a negative vote. So if there's a story that you really don't like, you can give it a negative vote. So it will be interesting whether there are any stories when they count up the tally that actually ends up in the negative.
Yeah. I'm gonna say that I don't want that in the Chronicle Chamber votes. I think we should remain positive when it comes to
Yeah.
voting.
Yeah, it does seem.
Yeah. So good on you, Sweden, for trying something different, but I don't like that.
There is a prize involved. It's a random prize for entrance. Is that right, Jim?
Yes. Yeah, so if you vote, you go in the draw. I think it's a 6 month or a 10 issue or something but it's actually a subscription. So they'll send you the comics, which I think is a great way of doing it because, you know, you are interested
Hmm.
in the Phantom and you wouldn't mind the comics. And so, if there's an Australian that wins it, you get, I don't know, 6, 10, whatever it is. And it's like, it may prompt you going, well, hang on, I've enjoyed that. I might subscribe. And so I think it's a good way of doing it.
I think it's a great prize. I remember back in the day, didn't through for an award-winning letter, they'd have a 6 month or 12 month subscription.
Yeah. Yeah, they
Hmm.
used to do $25 and then they changed it to a 6 month subscription for a period of time.
Yeah, I think that's a good prize. Staying over in Scandinavia, we've got the 22nd Phantom Saga returning in 2025 with David Bishop as the writer. Now, uh, looks like our fellow here, Jermaine, was Old Man Moz and predicted that this might happen.
Yeah. Uh, what's the saying? A broken watch is right even twice a day. Um, but yeah, no. So when Clayster and Murphy unfortunately passed away and or he retired first and then he passed away, the 22nd Phantom Saga, which we've been enjoying bits and pieces. I've been enjoying it. I think from Dan, from memory, Dan has enjoyed parts of it, and I think you have as well, Steve. We were kind of like, well, what's going to happen now? What is going to happen? And I said, back then that I would like to see David Bishop to return and actually write it because I think he understands the Phantom. I think he would be able to join all the little threads that Clace has ripped apart and torn apart and thrown chaos into the Phantom's world. And so yeah, hopefully David can niche and stitch everything back together and return things to be a little bit more palatable. And hopefully, I haven't talked to him about this yet, but hopefully we will see that Sandal Singh's little boy, I think it's Nadar Singh, is not the 21st Phantom's.
That's what we're all hoping for, I think. Dan, I reckon you'll be on
Mm,
that same bandwagon.
Yeah, absolutely. What I'd really like, and it's the same thing I say probably with most of these sagas, is to see them collected at some point. I think, as Germ said, I've sort of bounced in and out of my enthusiasm for this saga. I really didn't like the first three stories. I think the second lot of three stories were much better. So I guess seeing them collected would be really cool. But look, just to
mm.
see them continuing is a great start.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
so
would.
hopefully we get a good solid conclusion to it all. Wrap it up.
Yeah.
Mm, well, I would actually go a little bit step further, Steve.
Ooh.
You talked about, to wrap it all up. I would actually like to see it continue. So
Okay. So two universe type thing.
yeah, just every year you only need one, two, three stories. It doesn't. They don't even have to be part of the overarching arc. We could see that this 22nd Phantom's still. I mean, 21st Phantom's still alive, but he's injured, and he cannot take the role anymore. So we see a continuation of the 22nd Phantom, so to speak. But they could be standalone adventures. But I would just like to be able to go along the journey of a new Phantom, finding love, battling, a new set of villains that can become his villains. He can find his own friends, like the 21st Phantom has with, Garan and Lamanda Luaga, fought against General Babubu and Python and Nomad and stuff like that. I would like to kind of see the 22nd Phantom having those characters and villains and friends that he grows into the role with. It will just be nice, every year get an adventure or two.
Okay. Well, we look forward to seeing those. But just as long as it's treated well and not just
Yes,
yeah,
yes, yeah. It has to be treated with the same respect. I I would
and not
like,
not just merely a gimmick.
yeah, not gimmicky. I would like to see the eventually, David Bishop come to a conclusion of what's happened to this 21st Phantom and
Yeah.
he be treated with some respect. But yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't mind seeing it as an ongoing series.
Okay.
What happened to the 21st Phantom, should that tie in with what Tony DePaul did in Death of the Phantom? That he's actually buried somewhere in Tibet under a can of rocks and never returns to the Skull Cave.
It's a great question. Um, we've got our 300th podcast where we will be having a discussion with one of those creators involved in that story, or actually maybe two of those creators. I think that might be a question we ask them. And when these stories come out again, I would love to be able to get David on the podcast again to talk about that and he coming back to the Phantom and where he sees this 22nd Phantom saga. So I think they're questions that I think when we get the next stories, we will discuss when we review them. And then I think it is questions that we discuss with David, but also maybe Tony DePaul as well, because one could argue that Tony DePaul has written that this is how the 21st Phantom dies. So you could argue that
I
it is
think,
canon.
to me,
Yeah.
I don't think it just is.
Mm.
Tony Paul has been quite blunt about that in his blog, and I think we were alluding earlier to when will the newspaper strip, how long will it keep going? he was quite open about the fact that he wrote that so that if it does suddenly stop somewhere, it is established how the 21st Phantom dies.
Mhm.
Yeah, so the way I would counteract that is, and this is going back to my Back to the Future movie watching as a younger kid, where I think anything to do with time travel comes from those movies in one way or the other. So that's, kind of like our Bible on how time travel kind of works, is what's happened might be the end point, but how we get there might change. So
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
yeah,
Absolutely.
so that might be so when I said that the 21st Phantom doesn't die in this Team Phantom End story, but he is retires, that can still maybe eventually end being buried in, in Upper India somewhere. But how he gets buried there and how he dies could be changed because the future is not quite yet set. So I think that's how I would potentially get around it if I was David Bishop and the editors at Team Phantom.
Mm.
All right. We look forward to see what David has in store and that's going to be released this year. Is that right? It's coming through
For
this
Team
year.
Phantom, I
Mhm.
don't have any idea for Fru. I hope Fru do it fairly quickly because the series has been largely successful, I think is fair to say, with a lot of fans. But
Yeah.
Team Phantom and stories do have generally a 1 to 2 year delay before being published by Fru. So yeah,
Sometimes. We'll
hopefully
see
it's
how
not
we
that
go.
one. Hmm.
Yeah. Okay, staying overseas, we've got Mythos, new Brazilian book collecting Don Newton stories, and includes a keyring giveaway. Now, when I was having a look at this on the website, that looks very much like it was like the Hermes. They did a Don Newton collection, didn't they, just recently? And now it looks like the guys over in Mythos are following suit.
Yeah, and Mythos has history with this where they've copied or re-released in Portuguese of what Hermes has done with the Jim Aparo book, now the Don Newton book as well. So for the past probably 4 or 5 years, Mythos have actually just been producing these hardcover collection books. So it's interesting that they've gone away from the single comic and they've just gone towards this, but they from what I understand, they sell well. Fans are enjoying them, so I guess that's probably why they're continuing with them.
No, look, I'd love to get my hands on one of those key rings.
That'd
I don't
be
know.
handy.
Good to see it's still coming out. Yeah, it's an interesting business model where you basically mirror what another publisher does.
Yeah. In the same sort of vein, I guess, French publisher Editions Dante are continuing their Phantom Collection series, this time focusing on the American 1960 to 70 stories released by publishers Charlton, King, and Gold Key. That sounds like something that Hermes would have done in the past as well. Will I be right in that? Just the collection of Charlton
Yeah,
stories?
yeah,
Yeah.
and even Frew have started reprinting some of these Charlton stories as well. So it makes me
Yeah, that
wonder.
all in one volume. Who doesn't
Yeah,
really
no,
do it all in one volume, though? Yeah.
but it makes me wonder that Moonstone, because Moonstone stories are being published a lot. These Fratelli Sparta stories have been published a lot, and these King Charlton stories have been published a lot around the world as well. That what I assume the license is kind of covered with what they pay King Features anyway. So, which is all well and good, but some of those stories are really crap. Um, and
Pay
I'll
for 299B.
Yeah, yeah, and we'll go into a little bit more in episode B, but I would like to see King Features readdress this model slightly and maybe offer some stories that modern readers might enjoy more than some of these dated stories that don't also really portray the Phantom in the best light as well. So, yeah.
Phantomet in Denmark have released their second book from their series. Now, what have we got news on that one there, Jim?
Yeah, so this is from Denmark, which you made mention. It features a collection of stories. Now, I don't mind how they are doing it. There's a newspaper story, there's a Fru story, and then there are some King Charlton stories, which you talked about, but it's not a whole book of them. It's a nice little mixture. And I think the way they do that, I think works well. What's actually interesting, and this was pointed out to me the other day, which I haven't included in the article, which you can find on the website, but I probably will update it, is the article, I mean, the book in the Fru stories, how we have the guidance, the parental guidance saying that, that this book may, hang on, I've got a comment here. Let me read it out. Please note that this publication is a direct reproduction of historical content and is presented in its original form. As such, it may include negative depictions and or mistreatment of people or cultures. So we get that in the Fru comic. That has also now appeared in this Denmark issue as well. So that's interesting. From what I understand, it's not appeared in the Team Phantom in the Phantom End magazine as well. So yeah.
Okay. Dan, did you know that the Phantom, as part of Shakti Comics, was part of a book fair over in India?
I did know that because I read chroniclechamber.com.
Oh, that's great. So, anything you could tell us about? Have you got the? I'm just throwing you under the bus because I thought it'd been a while since I've heard from you.
Heads up. Look, the Chennai Bapasi Book Fair, and it says here the team's written this one. I assume was it Swaz or Ankit sent the information into us, Germ?
Yeah, so it was a bit of a collection of people writing that article, that hence it was under the byline of the team and not just a certain person. Look, it as you can see by the image, again, if you're on YouTube, you'll see the image popping up instead of our beautiful faces. It doesn't seem like it was a huge thing, but the fact that there's Indian publishers getting out and about amongst the people, going to these book fairs, going to Comic Cons, having comics for sale, because you're going to be picking up a lot of the older Indian readers who read the Indrajal comics when they were younger. So we're talking about baby boomers. We're talking about people our age who grew up and older, grew up on Indrajal comics, on Diamond comics, and they might not know that Shakti or Regal still produce comics. And so they might go to a book fair and they'll go, oh, the fan, I used to read this as a kid, and then they'll buy it. So, hopefully that's what happens. It's good to see these publishers, instead of just sitting there expecting that if they put a comic out in a shop, people are going to buy it. Let's go to a comic convention and let's go to the people. So that's what I like about that.
Good on them. And staying over in India, Shakti Comics have released a 2025 table calendar. So if you'd like, it's a limited print. It's not going to be huge, but if you want to check out that, it's about $5 Australian, so it's quite in the price range. However, postage might be the killer on that one. We do have a link on our website if you want to find a quick and easy way to figure out how to purchase it.
It's limited to only 200 items, but is still available as we speak. So if you're keen on that one, I'd be jumping on soon.
Fresh off the presses, Dan, you've got some news about the Mallon diary.
Lots of fans love the Mallon diary and had ordered it late last year and probably looking at their mailboxes going, well, where is it? We did get in touch with Mallon just before Christmas, where we heard that there were some copyright issues with King Features. But as you say, fresh off the presses, just today we've heard that they have arrived, they're ready to go, and in fact are starting to be posted around Australia. So they've been, Wednesday? They've been hitting mailboxes from Monday this week. So hopefully fans are starting to receive those if they've ordered them. And if you haven't ordered them, now that you can spend the money and get the product pretty quickly.
Excellent. Thanks for that, Dan.
Mm.
Something where the fandom was at was that Brickvention in Melbourne. So down here, down in Melbourne here in Victoria, big old Lego convention, I guess, where Lego builders, I think it's called Adult Fans of Lego or something like that. They take their creations down to the exhibition buildings and put on display things that they've made. Now, we've got a couple of Lego builders in the fandom community, and one being Gary, who has presented some of his Lego stuff in the past. I think Trev as well. Would he be another one, fellas?
Yep.
Yeah.
Is he another one? Yeah. Who have displayed their Lego Phantom creations. Yeah, at the Brig Bench. Now, I haven't been on Facey to see because it was last weekend. I haven't seen if they posted any photos up lately. The only photos we have I can see on our website are from previous years. It
Yep.
was actually on last weekend. I was in Melbourne last weekend, but couldn't get to it. So if you're in Melbourne and you're able to see it, hit us up and let us know what you think. And well done, fellas, for bringing the Phantom to the masses.
What I think Gary and Trevor, I know Gary does it. I'm not sure about Trevor, but I think he does. One of the things that they do is they get like a whole bunch of back issue comics and they actually give them out to people who
Oh,
comment on
that's
the
cool.
Phantom, on the Phantom Lego as well. And again, when we talked about how, publishers need to get out to the people. This is something that, and Frew probably don't even know about it, but this is something that Frew should be jumping on as well. Is like, okay, look, cool, you've created a fandom thing. Here, here's here's a box of bookmarks. Here's a box of trading cards, and here's some back issues, and give them out for free. People like it. Just get rid of the stuff, because that's what kids will go and they go, oh, cool, look at this, you get a free comic, oh, you get a free, a bookmark with it and stuff like that. So no, not last year, the year before, I bribed my daughter. She had, school talks. So I bribed her to do the Phantom as one. So she did a video of going through the Phantom collection and stuff. And I got like a whole bunch of, bookmarks, trading cards, stickers, a couple of back issues of Kid Phantom and stuff like that. And like they still talked about it like, months afterwards as like, like I did I did a camp or something like the next year and I had some kids come up to me and say, "Oh, you're the guy with the fan collection. I really like that comic." And, and that's what King Features, that's what these publishers should be doing is trying to get comics, bookmarks, stickers, whatever it is, into the hands of kids. So,
Absolutely.
great work from Gary and all that who do that on their own back. But, Free should jump on board and, donate some stuff for Gary to be able to give away to some kids who are there for Lego, but you might even be able to pick up a Phantom fan or not because we need the next generation.
That's right. Now, Lego have done, they've worked with companies like DC and Marvel and put out, superhero Lego. It'd be great for them to do a licensed Lego playset of the Phantom, because we do like licensed stuff, but sometimes unlicensed stuff gets our attention as well. I think over the break, I think it was published on YouTube was the fan fiction stories that I read a chapter of two stories and I read chapters of both of them. Oh well, there'd been some reactions on that.
Yeah, there's been some reactions for fans who did not bother to read the article or look at the stuff that we published, and yeah, got a little bit upset that we were promoting unlicensed stuff, forgetting that we've actually kind of done that all, for the whole 10, 15. How long's Chronicle Chamber been around for?
Been a while.
2006
First time.
established,
Yeah.
So it's getting close to 20 years now. 15, 20 years that we've been around. We've informed the public of what's out there. We've always said when stuff is not licensed or when it is licensed. But at the end of the day, we're fans for the fans. So it's up to you whether you want to buy the book, whether you want to watch the YouTube video, or whether you want to comment and look like a tool. But it's up to you. created one video of Stephen. You did a great job reading out the prologue of the first book. We've already got the audio for the second book. Just haven't got around to creating it. Look, if you did like the video and you would like to see us do another one, let us know. And Stephen will let us know how we can be contacted. But it was a bit of fun. We're allowed to have some fun.
Yep.
I guess one thing
Yep.
to show is that we're only 5 or 6 years away from does it even matter in terms of, well, the license will essentially expire. The copyright on the Phantom will expire 95 years after 1936. So, if I want to go and write a Winnie the Pooh book or a Popeye book now, does it even matter that it's licensed or not? So there are people who, and look, I'm firmly on the fence of I far prefer licensed stuff. There's a quality control that goes with that. Sometimes, we can have arguments about the quality of that control, and we do. But at least there is an oversight to it. So it's an interesting space that we're wandering into. Other fans of older characters and intellectual properties than the Phantom are already experiencing that. It'll be interesting to see where it goes.
Yeah, and probably in that 5 or 6 times when that copyright time expires, we're probably looking to see some sort of Phantom horror slasher flick like what's happened with Winnie the Pooh, and I think Popeye also happened. It seems as soon as the IP becomes public domain, they make a horror film about it, which I hope they don't do about the Phantom.
Hopefully we get a Phantom movie before then. But I guess one way of looking at it is that we will get a new Phantom movie soon, but it will be a horror movie, and like you said, it'll be a slasher. He'll be a killer. He'll be wearing purple, and when he kills the people, he'll be branding them with a skull mark, which will all be under the free license by then. So hopefully we get a Phantom movie before then, though.
It'll be written by an AI machine.
Yeah.
Okay, just really dump on it. All right, before we go, you'll be able to join us as we record our 300th podcast our official 300th podcast with the newspaper creators Tony DePaul, Jeff Weigel, and Mike Manley on Saturday, the 8th of February at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That we're talking about the United States. Now, we will put on a time zone calculator on our website. Actually, there's one already there. Is that right? Yeah, Jim's nodding. And details on how to join in on the conversation. So if you're in Melbourne here in Australia, or if you're over in New Delhi in India, or you're over in Denmark or France, and you don't know what time 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is in your country or your part of the world, check out our website and have a look there. Or go onto your phone. You can do it on your phone as well. Right, so that's 200 episode 299A in the can. 299B will be where we discuss the latest comics from around the world, including Australia, the United States. We've talked a lot about the States today, Sweden and Germany. It will be out in about a week's time, so you do not miss out. You can subscribe to us via YouTube or through your favorite podcast apps, including iTunes or Spotify. Thank you very much for listening to us. Thank you very much for watching us. Our website is chroniclechamber.com, and our email is chroniclechamber@gmail.com. Of course, as always, we would love to hear your thoughts, your feedback, and opinions on our social media platforms or over at the YouTube channel. If I didn't say enough about the video game during this podcast and I didn't write enough in the article and there's something else that you'd like to know, hit us up on the socials and I'll be more than happy to make a comment if I can. Thank you, and please get in contact with us. And of course, happy Phantoming.
Happy Phantoming, everyone.
I'm mad, I must eradicate piracy, injustice and cruelty, and all my sons will follow me, so evildoers will believe that this man cannot die. The Phantom, the ghost who walks. The Phantom, enemies beware. The Phantom's always there, but you won't find the Phantom. He finds